Oh, you are a glutton for
There we
punishment.
go.
I am.
Actually, it's been pretty tame.
I like to follow those just to see what people are concerned about, what we need to follow up. Yeah.
That's a word for it, yeah.
Door prizes.
However, Betsy, you have to leave a donation.
Wow.
Touche. Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk Board of Selectmen's meeting of Thursday, May 2nd. My name is Jim Lehan. To my left is my associate, Mr. Calcutt. To his left is our town administrator, Blythe Robinson. And to her left is Nancy Langley, our executive assistant here this evening. Nancy, thanks for joining us. I want to remind everybody that this meeting is being both audio and video taped and is available through Norfolk Cable and is available through YouTube as well. Would you all please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Blythe, would you read the agenda for this evening, please?
Our first order of business is to have a community discussion regarding the annual town meeting warrant, answer questions about that. Under action items, we would like you to please consider amending the FY 2020 budget, to please consider approving and executing the fire union contract, to please consider approving and executing the fire chief's contract, to please review the state municipal vulnerability program project. We'll have a short presentation on that. To please consider approving the request from 3 Squares New England for the 8th annual bicycle ride for food through Norfolk on October 6th of this year. Number 8 is to please consider issuing a one-day alcohol license to the Chubby Chickpea Tapped Mobile Beer Simcha Restaurant for an event on May 5th. That's a road race you've already approved. Please consider a reorganization of the board. And then we have warrants for April 12th and 2 on April 16th for your approval, and approval of the minutes of March 5th.
Thank you very much. So our first order of business is a discussion around the warrant. We have an audience tonight. It's a pleasant change. Great to see everybody. What I think we'll do is we'll just, Blythe has agreed to go through the warrant article by article, and any questions, she'll give a high-level overview of that article, and any questions or comments or anything we wish to discuss on it, we'll chat away. So, Maura?
And several of our departments heads are here. Thank you, to be able to answer any detailed questions should they come up, especially when we get to the budget. So Article 1, as you know, is for the various offices that need to be re-elected this year, and those will be taken care of at the May 7th election next Tuesday at Freeman Kennedy School. Article 2 is a typical article that we have on the warrant to pay any unpaid bills from a prior year. That would require a high-level vote at town meeting. And as the town administrator comments note, we don't have any that we will be taking up, so we'll be asking for the town to pass over this article at the meeting. There'll be no motion. Article 3 allows the town to appropriate or transfer funds that are available from another source that need to be voted on at town meeting before the end of the fiscal year. Those are typically from free cash, and the only way to do that is at town meeting. We anticipate that there will be 4 transfers to handle on the night of the meeting. Any questions? Article 4 is an article that the town brings every year to adjust the compensation schedule for various employees that are on the pay and classification plan, and it is for a 1.5% increase to all steps on the schedule effective July 1. Article 5 is the budget. This is where the town passes its annual budget for the fiscal year 2020 that starts on July 1st. And I think this is the article where the moderator wanted to speak about how he wants to handle the process of doing so.
Come on up, Jay, please. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks very much, Blight. So normally, when we do the budget at town meeting, and we go through a very detailed budget, and I believe the detailed budget's already on the website?
And it's on the table in the back.
Table in the back. So that's no different. The town is still organizing their budget into a heavily detailed budget. But for presentation purposes and for, to expedite the town meeting, we'll still go through the normal presentation by Blythe for her portion of the budget. The schools will go have their presentations too. And then I invite holds. We read out line items. That's been typical for years. And we go through the lengthy list of line items. And people can hold 5, 6, 7 things, and you get 2 trips up to the mic. You know, I go to a lot of town meetings, as you know, and kind of developing kind of a sense that there's an easier way to do that. So what we're going to do is just read the bottom line for each of the major departments. So there's general government, there's public safety, there's DPW, there's debt service, there's culture and health, and maybe a couple others in there too. So those are the only areas where people can do holds. They can hold it, and then when they do their discussion or raise their questions, they can do it as to a specific line item. They can move to amend that specific line item. But rather than having potential multiple holds on multiple items, each with 2 trips up to the mic, it really kind of will shorten the length of debate while still giving everyone a full opportunity to discuss whatever they want to discuss. I have no problem whatsoever with facilitating that debate. I'm just trying to make it a little less confusing. When people hold multiple line items, people get a little lost for a half hour or so there in town meeting. I'm trying to eliminate that. So
Good.
that's something we're doing. So it's a little bit of a procedural change, and I'll explain it again at town meeting, both at the beginning and then right before we do the budget.
Any questions from anyone?
And we'll have that on the screen, the summary page too, so people will know the bottom lines we're holding.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
You are welcome.
You're welcome to stay right there if you want.
Yeah, I have some questions on 11, so I'll
Right ahead.
just stick around here.
Please.
So there are copies of the budget in the back. There will be copies of the budget available at the election at the polls. And of course, it's available
Jump in
online.
if anything you
And at
want.
this point, we don't anticipate any changes to the budget, but do you want to call?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Grab the microphone. I have strict instructions here.
Okay, I have a suggestion, and that is the event that's going to happen next year, should the town vote for it, which is the Time Traveler's Birthday Party. That is part of the Historical Commission's budget, and Todd has generously offered to say something about that, because it looks like our budget went up 950%, which may elicit some comments or questions.
On a small amount, by the way, please note.
Yes, right. But anyway, what I was going to ask you to do, Jim, if you wouldn't mind, is to, when and if Todd says something about this, and I imagine that he will, could you just say that the Board of Selectmen threw out an invitation for someone or anyone to come up with some ideas to celebrate the 150th anniversary, and that I came forward just at the invitation from Town Hall? It wasn't just my idea on my own.
Well, you have drafted me into that committee, so I would be glad to speak on behalf of the committee, but I will not be in a position to speak on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, I see.
But I will be glad to speak as a citizen, as
Oh,
part of
that's
that
right.
committee and encourage.
I forgot. A little detail.
How quickly we forget.
Yes. So if you could just give a
Yes,
little background,
I will be glad to speak from the audience.
and if people want me to say anything, that would be good, but if you said it first, that might have a
And
little
if a
more.
member of the board would like to facilitate that too, would be
Yeah,
appreciated.
absolutely.
And one of the important reasons to say something about it is to extend the invitation to everybody in the room that this is something that everybody's not going to want to miss out on.
It's a great event. For those that don't know, and why don't you just briefly describe what the event is?
Well, February 23rd is Norfolk's 150th birthday, and many people thought we should have some celebration to mark this event, especially in light of the party that was held for the centennial and for the 125th. So I came up with the idea of Norfolk's birthday party to be held at the King Philip Junior High with a dinner, and we would invite past selectmen and other dignitaries who maybe don't even live in Norfolk now. And with a little twist that we're going to have at least a dozen, maybe 15 people from Norfolk's past who are in the category of time travelers because they're no longer alive. So they're going to be people like Agnes Bristol and Olive Day and Charlotte Ware for the three big women. And we're going to have Josiah Ware and lots of other Norfolk people. Dan Winslow's going to come and reenact his grandfather's life as the second warden of the Norfolk prison. So we're sort of excited. We think it'll be a lot of fun. And a subset of those 15 people will probably get up and say some words about why they're here, why they made the effort to come through time to this party. So, and then we're going to have a dinner that's put on by that's catered by Roach Brothers to keep the cost low, and we're going to charge a small fee for tickets for everybody.
And to her point on the budget, there is a small amount in the budget reflected, I think it's under historical, am I right?
It
Tom?
is.
Yeah. And that's just intended to subsidize the beginning of this process while tickets are being sold. And it'll be a fun night, and
I hope so.
I'm glad I can help.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes, David?
So with respect to the budget, I don't have questions about the process we'll go through at the town meeting. But for this evening, I'd appreciate if, for those items that differ in the 2020 request from the 2019 budget, if you could explain the reason for the differences for each of them.
Can you be
Somebody
more
could-
specific, David, on what you want us to go through?
Oh, so, for example, the advisory board shows that its that its salary is $1,500 less than it was in 2019. So the question is, why is the salary $1,500 lower? And basically, for each item where there is a change between 2019 and 2020, a reason for the change.
And you want us to go through each of these,
Yes.
okay? Well, who could speak to the advisory board? Todd?
Nope.
It's all right.
Might want to just stay there too.
Yeah, I think, grab a seat, Todd.
All right, so advisory board salaries, previously that was a stipend of $7,500. We changed that to an hourly. So based on the hourly rate and the number of hours, it was going to be a little bit lower as we anticipated. So that's the difference on the salaries amounts there. You want me to go down?
I'd
Straight down the
appreciate
list?
that, and I'll also point out that by dealing with this now, it will save me asking these questions on the
Absolutely.
floor of the town meeting.
Municipal finance, the department's going up 4.7% total. Majority of that is going to be salary increases, typically about 4%. Audit, which we normally have done in the past, actually that's been reduced. Had that reduced this year, and then obviously I'm contracted with them for the next year after this one as well. We were paying $45,000, so that's dropped down to $36,000. Board of Assessors is flat. Town Council, anticipated expenses, we hope are going to go down $20,000, but we never know with that. Depends on what the claims are for that year. Human Resources, standard increase for payroll on the salary, no increase on expenses. Information Technology, there's a decrease there. Salaries are a little bit flat. We did have a changeover in personnel. That includes coverage for the two individuals there for their regular salary. And the expenses went down a little bit. We have some savings on software, and we're doing a little bit different initiative. Instead of purchasing computers per se, we're going to move that to a capital expense and purchase more in volume. We'll do that in the fall town meeting. tax title foreclosure, that's flat. Facilities management, this went up quite a bit. The reason for this is majority of it, we have the new regional dispatch center that we have to start to maintain, so we weren't maintaining that in the past, so that increases that as well. We're also taking some of the funds that were earmarked for oil usage over at the schools, and we're taking and paying through maintenance. Makes it a little bit easier to control because now all the oil is being bought through maintenance, not separately.
If one had broken that out, is the oil price basically the same as just moved from one account to another, or has it?
Correct. So
Okay.
instead of it being paid in the school, we're paying through facilities management.
Thank you.
Yep. Town clerk, reason that's gone down a little bit is don't anticipate we had more elections this year than we expect next year, so our expenses should go down for next year. Wetlands, again, that's a standard salary increase, and that's actually paid out of special revenue account, not through the general fund budget. Planning board, increase there. We have some liabilities that we're going to be facing, some additional legal requirements on a lot of these different projects that are in place. So we're gonna need a $10,000 increase for there. Land use department, again, majority of that increase is going to be salaries with the personnel changes and the standard 4% increase. Town reports is flat. Police budget's going up 6.9%. Majority of that is we're in contract negotiations and finished that for this year. And the majority of that includes some of the different things that we did through the bargaining unit for the police, as well as additional coverage. And tell me if I'm missing anything.
Can I add one thing on the police?
Yes.
And also, we have several officers retiring, and there are buyout considerations in those retirements based on sick leave, so that's included in the budget.
Thank you.
Ambulance billing, I'm sorry, fire and ambulance. Fire department, that's, again, they're actually going down a little bit than the standard 4% increase was what we try to target the different departments at. But again, we have a transition in the fire chief, and we'll have some savings that'll flow through for the next year based on that and the fire contract that we finalize on. Ambulance billing, that's going up. Every year, it's right around the $23,000, $24,000 mark that we pay for ambulance services. That's the software and billing company that we have to utilize in order to get our ambulance receipts. So they budgeted $20,000. I have to make sure the budget's a little bit more because to keep under budgeting.
Is most of the ambulance paid back in fees that?
Yes.
Your charge? Thank you.
So the budget, on the revenue side, we take out about almost $400,000 from ambulance receipts to help offset with the budgets.
Thank you.
Building department, again, increases due to personnel salaries. Weights and measures is flat. Emergency management is flat. Animal inspector, a small increase in the salary. Not a lot of dollars there, probably about $80. Animal control has to do again with salaries, with the cost of living adjustment as well as the step increases. And then the bigger increase for the fire police communications, which is the dispatch, we're at the mercy of the regional dispatch for them to provide us with a budget. They're being the first year budget, they anticipate X amount in expenses, and hopefully next year, once they actually get numbers in and understand how that works, we should be able to probably reduce that possibly on a going forward basis. But that's the number that they've decided as far as an assessment.
Is there any way of comparing that with what we were paying for those services when it was part of our police department?
So that, it is. So 2019, that's what we've budgeted previously for the communication. The increase, the 389, that's going to be the new regional dispatch. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I guess I'm not sure why it's that big a jump, but it does. But I understand what you're saying.
Okay. It's because the changeover in the assessment is done by the regional dispatch, not by us as the town of Norfolk. The budget in here for salaries with the regional assessment, with the expenses, total $340,000. We're going to be at $389,000. What's not in here, and is on the transfer request, is about another 70,000 to offset the salaries for the dispatch because of, we were supposed to start, I believe, January 1 or February 1, and because of the delay, we have additional salary increases.
So, I'm sorry, so the transfer request is a transfer from where to where?
Free cash
From,
to dispatch salaries.
okay, thank you.
Yep. Norfolk Elementary Schools, 4% increase. King Philip Regional Schools, 3.4% increase. I anticipate that possibly to go down depending on how the other two towns vote, but that's where we currently have them at, based on their request with us. Norfolk Agricultural School, a small increase, $1,100 for a 5.4% increase overall. And then Tri-County, just a change in the number of kids going there anticipated, so that's why there's a big decrease of 20%. Public Works, DPW Administration, we have a 20% increase in DPW Administration. Majority of that is rearrangement on the salaries. Do you want to speak to that real quick, or?
The DPW administration is increased. It's an increase that you'll see this year, but it'll go away next year. What we do is it's funding an assistant director right now. Had the same conversation this time. Next year, we'll be talking about my retirement, which means that the salaries will then go down.
Right, so this was bringing on somebody who is
It was.
potentially your replacement.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Highway Department, again, increases there due to salaries. We have additional personnel.
One additional position is being asked for in highway.
Vehicle maintenance, a small increase in their expenses, and then a small increase in their salaries to the tune of only 2.9%. Municipal grounds, crews, small increase, majority of it's a salary, 1.7%. Cemetery has a big increase. The reason why we have increase in the cemetery is they do a lot more burials on Saturdays, which is time and a half, so we have to cover that.
And just make one comment on the DPW. The DPW has taken the low end of salary increases for a number of years and has had a lot of needs, both in terms of personnel as well as equipment. And they have been, I think, I'll speak only for me, in my view, underfunded for several years. So we need to invest in that department. We have a lot of infrastructure issues, and so this budget reflects a reinvestment, if you will, in the DPW that I won't say has been neglected, but Bob has been sort of giving it the office a little bit too long.
So this is partially sort of make up for under...
It meets the needs of what, it's a needs-based budget. It isn't a makeup budget. It's a needs-based budget, and we've not been meeting the needs, in my view, of what Bob's department needs to do.
Thank you.
Next page, shared fixed cost, DPW. Chapter 90 funds, pretty much flat. Landfill expenses going down about $2,000 for a 2% decrease. Snow and ice budget, we keep that flat at $250,000.
Can you explain why the landfill is going down?
Bob?
It's going down in that line. What we did was we found that expense really belongs in transfer station. So where you might see an increase in transfer, it went there. It was just a swap.
okay.
Bit of a wash.
Thank you.
Street lighting and town vehicle fuel, all flat, again, for the overall in that area. It's going down a little bit. And as we just talked about, transfer station, small increase in their expenses. The additional increase is related to salaries for that department, again, right around 4%. Human Services, we have Board of Health. The big decrease there was last year we had to do a transfer into the Board of Health to do an LSP to help us out with one of the projects in town. So we're not going to be needing those funds in that account, so that's coming out.
What does LSP stand for?
Rich?
Licensed sex professional.
Thank you.
Special programs, again, flat. Council on Aging, they do have an increase. They're looking for additional hours over with a couple of their people over there, which, yes, sir?
I don't understand that.
Additional hours.
Oh, hours.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, so
And veteran,
not new people, but more hours for
Correct.
the people that are already there.
Yep.
Thank you.
Veteran Services is flat. Culture and Recreation, Library. Majority of their increases, small increase in their expenses. Salaries, again, going up based on Cost of living adjustment and steps, 3.9%. Recreation, there was a change in salaries for recreation, which is the biggest jump. Expenses went up a little bit too to cover them, but again, the biggest jump was for salaries.
But why was that jump for salaries? What happened that caused the jump for salaries?
There was a review done based on current conditions with other recreational departments, and the staffing was underpaid based on what they were doing, so. there was an
So better
adjustment.
alignment for
Correct.
the work being done.
Yep, based on the job description.
Thank you.
Fixed costs, our employee benefits going up 2.2%. The employee benefits includes healthcare, workers' comp, the portions for payroll taxes, some contractual obligations, things of that sort. Building liability insurance, small increase to cover because now we have the additional station that we have to cover now. That's why that increase. Our debt service, non-exempt debt service is actually going down a little bit. Just means that we had some debt on there that came off the books because it was been paid off, so we're only looking at 20% this year. And then our total budget for FY20 request is $39,851,755. And then we talk about the exempt debt for Norfolk. That's going up, and that increase is related to the debt that we took on for the police station of the $385,422 increase. And then King Philip, that's the school remodel, and that's actually going down because we're paying that off. And it should be coming off in the next few years. Total budget, $42,943,757. Then you have a small recap there underneath to show how we're going to fund this through the revenues.
Thank you all very much for indulging me with that. I appreciate the information.
Any other questions?
Haven't burials always been on Saturday? Haven't burials always been on Saturday?
Yes, and we've had to pay the overtime. We haven't budgeted for the overtime. That's why the increase.
Any more questions? All right. Todd, thank you. Mike?
Anytime.
Yes, thank you, Todd.
Sure.
So we, the town operates a water enterprise fund and a sewer enterprise fund, and so separately, we have articles on the warrant to approve those budgets that are outside of what Todd just reviewed. And under Article 6, we will approve the Water Division's enterprise budget, and Article 7 takes care of the wastewater enterprise fund budget. Article 8 is to allow the town to raise and appropriate money to fund capital items from various departments. At this point, we will not be bringing any motions for that. We will be taking care of those in the fall when we have our special town meeting later this year. Article 9 allows us to borrow as well as appropriate or transfer funds for a capital project. And in this specific one, we will be bringing a request to replace the H. Olive Day roof, and that is going to be funded in part by a grant from the state's MSBA program, as well as some debt that the town will incur to make sure we cover all of the costs. So this will be a much longer motion than typical to approve all of those, and I know that the schools and facilities will be making a short presentation about that at town meeting.
Question about that. What do you anticipate is the total dollar amount that will be asked for? Do you,
So the total dollar amount that's going to be asked for appropriation is 2.8 million, 2.8 and change. That 2.8 and change is going to be funded through a couple of different sources. One is MSBA is going to be refunding us at 51.63% reimbursement. So for every dollar that we spend on the roof, they're going to give us 51 cents back. There's a portion of the roof that is not covered under this because of the timing of the construction. Doesn't fall within their parameters. So 2.8, match 51.63%. We have almost $1 million that we got back from the old school that we're gonna be using to fund for this. So that's the $1 million. I know I'm all over the place, but bear with me for a second. $1 million there. And then we may have to ask for debt of, I am thinking close to about 900, maybe no more than $1 million for this project. So our expense might be close to about 1.8 for the town of the 2.8. Again, it'll all depend on how we go with the project and what's going to be happen when they actually get into doing the project. But the request is going to be I don't have it right in front of me, but 2.8 and change for the total.
Right.
But the majority of that's going to be covered through the $1 million that we have, and then the balance will be the request for debt borrowing of about $900,000.
If we have to approve the full amount of the project, it hasn't been bid yet, so if the bids come in lower, the actual cost to the town, it might end up being less later on, but we're cobbling together 3 sources of funds: the state funds we had left from the Freeman Kennedy School, and the difference will be what we need to go out and borrow inside the levy.
Just one other piece of information on this. Part of the issue that we had to work around is that the state only reimburses projects, and I believe, Todd, it's 25 years now. They only reimburse us on projects or buildings that are 25 years old. The main structure was built in '93, which is over 25 years old, but the new addition does not meet that criteria, and it is actually the new addition that has the biggest problem. So we have to fix both. And so we can't wait for the state aid, which is several years away. In order to fix that, it needs to be fixed now, and that's one of the reasons why we have to borrow more money.
And the math is a little bit complicated because the MSBA will pay for the old part of the roof, but they won't reimburse us for the new part of the roof. So there's a few moving parts to this. Moving on to Article 10, this article allows us to fund by borrowing or transfers or appropriation any capital items for the water enterprise fund. At this point, we don't plan to bring any for the water fund at this town meeting, perhaps in the fall. Article 11 allows the town to appoint a committee, hear a report of a committee, or give instructions to a committee. And I understand from the moderator's meeting there will be a couple of committees who do want to make reports.
Right. The open question, Jim, was whether or not there was going to be a report on the public safety building. We've tucked it in there the last few years.
I would suspect yes.
Okay.
But I'll have to talk with the chairman, George.
Okay.
But I would suspect yes.
Okay. You can let
Either
me.
George or I will most likely
Okay.
make a report.
So otherwise, we've got Town Government Study Committee, Energy Committee, Board of Assessors, and Affordable Housing.
Thank you.
Article 12 is one that I should clarify was not submitted by the town clerk. It was actually submitted by the Town Government Study Committee. That was clarified at the moderator's meeting the other day. But since the bylaws fall under the town clerk in terms of managing them, I think that's how that came about. But regardless, they have brought forth the recommendation that the bylaw should be changed to have gender neutral pronouns, and they have a list that they have inserted here. At the moderator's meeting the other day, they said they're going to slightly modify this list. Probably the last 3 will be changed to something a little bit different, and we're waiting to get that information from them. But that's the genesis of this article.
Is it correct that the slide that's put up will show the modified version that is being moved rather
Yes,
than?
it will.
Thank you.
Article 13 was intended to allow the town to accept Tailwind Circle as a public way. This is part of a subdivision, and it has been completed, and it's typically at this time of year, if it's ready, would be accepted by the Board of Selectmen and then town meeting. As we went through the final stages of that process and clarified with town council that the process we needed to take, we realized that there was a step that we didn't have time to take, and so we are going to pass over this at town meeting, and we'll take it up in the fall. There's no issues with the project. It's just a matter of getting all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. So that will come in the fall. Article 14 allows the town to reauthorize the spending limits on all of its revolving funds, and they're all listed here, and the expenditure limits. So we expect that this motion will be fairly much the same as the list that you see here. There are no new revolving funds this year.
Question, are the amounts, the limits the same as they've been in the past, or any of the limits
Yes,
changed?
they are.
The same, thank you.
Article 15 is submitted by the Community Preservation Committee. Each year, if they choose to have an administrative and operating budget, they need to bring an article to town meeting. They have this year. They are requesting to be able to spend $15,000 of the annual revenues. That's $5,000 less than what was voted on last year. This is a very typical article that a town passes every year. Along that same vein, Article 16, the CPC law requires that you put aside 10% of your annual revenues into three separate buckets. One is for open space, one is for affordable housing, and one is for historic preservation. And so this article would allow them to put 10% of those proceeds from 2020 into each of those designations. Article 17, they have brought a specific project that they'd like to do, which is to spend $25,000 from the historic reserves designation to restore the exterior of the Tramp House located on Tower Hill. Article 18 is a typical article that every town must pass to enter into contracts for the expenditure of Chapter 90 funds to Norfolk spends on improvements to its public roads. So I think our designation will be about the same amount as last year, just shy of $309,000. Yep. Article 19 allows the board, gives the Board of Selectmen the authority to accept any grants from various boards or departments throughout the year. And Article 20 allows the board to acquire gifts or any such easements that we may need for drainage or public ways, raise any funds we need to handle those. This, again, is a typical article that the town passes each year. And the last one is...
Is it anticipated that any funds will be required for Article 20?
No, I don't believe so.
Thank you.
And then Article 21 would give the Board of Selectmen permission to sell surplus property that doesn't include buildings or land. Those, of course, would have to come to town meeting. And we don't have a list at this time that we anticipate bringing.
Do you believe that there will be some surplus property that will be offered for sale?
Not at this time.
None that we're aware of.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, Mike, thank you. Todd, thank you very much. Any other questions on the warrant? Anything we can answer? Okay. All right, great. Thank you all.
Again, I'd like to thank the Selectmen and Town Administrator for holding this session. I think it helps expedite the town meeting itself by allowing
Super.
people to get questions out earlier, and I very much appreciate it. I hope that this tradition will be continued. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
All right, moving on to action items. Jay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You
Nice
will
to
see everyone at town meeting.
Pleasure. Todd, thanks.
There's something else we missed?
No, we're good. All right. Action items.
So, thank you. So,
Thank you, Blythe, for going through that.
Oh, sure.
And my compliments for being on board in such a short period of time and getting up to speed as quickly as you have.
Next year, I'll
Expedited
be able
Well
to do
done.
all the budget changes, I
Well
promise.
done. And to department heads,
Yes, thank you
I
all.
would be remiss in not expressing my grateful appreciation, those of you that are here. Chuck has left, but Bob, for the work that you did in preparing these budgets, and what was a difficult fall, to say the least, but we worked our way through it, and without the great work of the department heads, we wouldn't be as effective for this town meeting as we are, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Blythe.
So, yes, thank you. At a meeting with the King Philip superintendent last week, we came to realize that the amount that the King Philip School Committee had certified for the budget for each of the three towns, what we were carrying in the budget was just under $35,000 less than what they had certified. And so wanted to recommend that we make an adjustment in our budget to bring our dollar amount for King Philip up to that level. And so in doing so, we're recommending that we make a slight adjustment downward in the fire department budget. And unfortunately, at this juncture, we also anticipate that the other two communities in the district are planning to approve budgets that are less than what the regional school committee has certified, which means that we will then, if that all comes to bear and those two towns do that, we'll have to meet the same percentage assessment that they will.
Right.
And so the amount of dollars that we'll need for our budget will not be as high as what we're carrying here. That may not be what's ideal for the schools, but it will give the town what we're anticipating, about $70,000, to restore the money to the fire department budget in the fall, as well as any other adjustments that we might need to make in the budget. We'll also have funds to be able to make transfers without using free cash. So the recommendation is to approve the budget at the same level you already authorized, just with these two adjustments. We've made the advisory committee aware of it, and they're going to plan to revote the budget just before a town meeting on that night. So that's the
quick
background.
snapshot of this is that if the towns, they're proposing a 3% budget. We're at a 3.58. Their 3% would come to a 2.77 for us. And once you play all the numbers back and forth, we actually end up with a $45,000 savings.
Right.
Our hope is that somebody can convince one of them to take a stretch.
Right, because, 2 out of the 3
Right.
towns have
And
to
they're both
vote
the
it.
same night, so.
Right.
Let them argue it out.
And
But-
we're first,
And we're
so.
first. So if we don't set the standard, then the decision's made beforehand. So appreciate your consideration on this. So do I have a motion to approve the new budget?
Motion to approve the new budget as outlined by Blythe.
Okay, thank you. I will second. Further discussion?
None of my end.
None of mine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kevin. I'll speak to item 2. We are not going to be in a position to execute the fire union contract tonight. We still have a couple of lingering language issues. None of them are significant, but we don't want to get into a situation of executing a contract with any open issues. So
Right.
we're going to hopefully clean this up here very quickly. So this will not get executed under this board. It will fall to your new board.
Absolutely.
But the majority of the financial considerations for this contract were agreed between the two negotiating parties back in March. It's just unfortunate we weren't able to clean up what really is minor language in the contract. But we will make an effort to present to the new board those issues resolved, and then it'll be the board's discretion to move forward with that contract. And I'll speak to the next one on the fire chief. I have very mixed emotions with this particular announcement. Peter Petrusik, who we had agreed or had hoped that we would take on with Cole's resignation, would be taking on the responsibilities of fire chief. He is now currently our deputy fire chief. Peter is in the last 4 years of his ability to work in the fire department with mandatory retirement at age 65. Sorry, Peter, that I disclosed your age. But Peter has reconsidered that and really wants to stay on as deputy chief. And I absolutely understand it. And I know that he will provide a lot of stability to the fire department.
Absolutely.
And will keep things going, so I don't think that there'll have to be a rush to channel here to find a new fire chief. I think Peter will provide you that opportunity to, for you and the town administrator and your board to move forward as you deem appropriate. So I do want to express my sincere appreciation to Cole Bushnell, which we did in another meeting, but I'd like to restate it. Cole is retiring as of June 30th. Cole will always be remembered as the father of ALS in the town of Norfolk. He is the one that brought us out of basically a taxi service to the hospital, with no disrespect to EMTs, but that's in fact what their capabilities were, and brought us into the era where our gentlemen are all paramedics and have and will continue to save lives in this town. And Cole was basically the resource that brought us into that capability. Other towns that have not gone that way are now beginning to see the light. Medfield and Millis and other towns are now going into ALS capabilities because, quite frankly, I don't know what greater crusade you could have than to keep people safe and to save lives. I don't think there's a better crusade. So Chief Bushnell will be greatly missed, but greatly appreciated for what he has done for the town. And I would say the same for Peter Petrusik. I don't mean to dominate, but I've known these gentlemen for 15 years, and in some cases, Peter's case longer. Peter has been a tremendous stabilizing force in the fire department, will continue to be so. He's been a great leader along with Chief Bushnell. They've done a wonderful job down there. Peter will continue in that deputy chief capacity, and we're grateful for that and happy that he's here. And personally, I'm sorry he's not going to be our chief, but I fully understand his decision, and we will leave it to the new board and to the town administrator to find our new commander-in-chief for the fire department. So you might want to add anything, Kevin?
I don't know what I could add to that. Just that we eagerly look forward to what the future holds for the department.
That we do. That we do. Thank you. Okay, Blythe, I didn't mean to jump in on 4 and 5, but I'll leave the rest to you.
Thank you. So, oh, we did? Okay. Wondering if you would be willing to consider a quick change of things to take up the one-day alcohol license.
Sure.
The folks are here in the audience for that, so I think it'll be quite quick. As you know, there is a road race on the 5th coming up this weekend, and the group that's holding it asked to be able to have to be able to sell beer through a mobile food truck. So that requires that the board issue a one-day license. We have prepared that, and in your packet is their server license, their insurance. We've gone over the details with the chief. We're actually going to park the truck at the library because don't want to be too close to the church on such a day. Thank you, Chief Stone, for thinking about this ahead of time.
That's a first, but anyway, okay.
Local government is never boring.
Okay.
It isn't. And so we're asking that you would consider approval of that, and I'm not sure who is here to speak to it if you have questions, but if you do.
Kevin, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions for mine.
Neither do I.
Is it just the beer truck, or is it both the food truck and the beer truck? Just the beer truck. Just the beer truck, okay.
From 10:30 to 1:30 on Sunday.
Do I have a motion, sir?
I move to approve a one-day alcohol license to the Chubby Chickpea Tapped Mobile Beer Truck and Cintra Restaurant for the event on May 5th, 2019, the CPAC 5K Road Race.
I will second. Any further discussion?
Not on my end.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. So,
How quickly he leaves. Must be a Bruins fan.
back to our regular scheduled program in progress, which was to, thank you, Nancy, to have a short presentation from Richard McCarthy and Paul Smith from Beta Engineering about the Municipal Vulnerability Program. I can't get that word out. It's a grant program that has been out for a little while from the state, and we very much think would be appropriate for Norfolk to take advantage of, to be able to plan for future issues that we had related to climate change. So if you would, I think in your packets, and I have a copy if you'd like to follow along. Oh, perfect.
Brought fresh ones in case you didn't.
No, I'm good.
Great, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll just need you to grab the microphone for the folks at home, that's all. Rich, welcome.
And I'm actually going to just hand the mic over to Paul to make the presentation, and if there's any questions that I need to answer, I will.
All right, guys, thank you for your time. The Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, and I'll be about 5 minutes, this won't be long. Shortly called the MVP program, is a program established by the Charlie Baker administration to prepare towns and municipalities to combat the effects and impacts of global warming. So essentially, there's 2 phases of this project. They're both essentially grant funding projects, and it's to begin the process in planning for climate change resiliency and implementing priority projects. I reached out to Rich about 6 weeks ago to spearhead this. We're going to start, the firm I work at, I'm a project manager at Beta Group. We're starting to do some stormwater work in town. So I reached out to Richard to see if this was a program the town would be interested in. Because the deadline will soon approach it. It just so happens that the deadline is tomorrow. Behind the scenes, Richard and I have been assembling the application. It's ready to go. My firm will drop that off tomorrow so we can meet the deadline. Essentially, once approved, the town will hold a workshop with department heads, big department heads within town. And through this workshop, we gather the unique experience of each of these department heads to come up with a list of things that they're concerned with as it relates to global warming. It could be flooding in one area of town. It could be you guys may or may not have an emergency plan. Say a large tropical storm wipes power out for 10 to 14 days. What would the town be prepared to do to help the residences in town who don't have power? So that could be an outcome of this. So essentially, through this workshop, you're identifying existing and future vulnerabilities. You develop and prioritize actions for the community, and you prepare an action report. That would be Beta's responsibility. We're going to submit this application. The state's going to review it, and if you're eligible, they're going to come back and say, here's $20,000 to hold this workshop and to have Beta prepare this report. And the outcome of that report leads to the second phase where you're actually doing something. All right. Examples could be there's a town building that's located in a floodplain. Reviewing existing culverts. You know, are the culverts in town sufficiently sized to handle greater and more frequent storm events? Or like I alluded to, create possibly a comprehensive emergency management plan. So through that report, which we would create for the town, we would submit it, and then the state would come back with financial resources on the order of $10,000 to $400,000. That's a 75% grant. They'd be looking for a 25% match at that point. And this is a couple years down the line right now. The workshop would be held between now and a year from now, and then phase 2 would subsequently be the following year. And examples of that would, again, be that emergency management plan. It could be a vulnerability and risk assessment. There's a whole range of things that really could come of this workshop. But ultimately, it would greatly prepare the town for any hazard condition, tropical storm, major blizzard, droughts, anything that really is global warming related. And ultimately, I got a figure here. I think it's page 3, state of Massachusetts map. You see where Norfolk is. Right below you to the south, Rentham. Rentham's already in the dark blue. They've already held their workshop and submitted for phase 2 funding. All right. Walpole and Medfield, they've held their workshop. They're in the process of going through phase 2. So your surrounding communities are already in on this. But much of the state isn't. It's a new program. It's going to continue to evolve. There's significant backing from the state, so there could be multiple phases to continue on beyond what they've already shown as phase 1 and 2. Lastly, how to apply. All of this stuff Richard and I have taken care of. The application is done and ready to submit. It's mainly letters of endorsement from town administrator, board of selectmen, and the appropriate department heads in town, showcasing their support to combat global warming and make the town of Norfolk prepared for the impacts. So essentially, that's it. We're just looking to make sure it's okay that we submit this on behalf. Everything that I've done on behalf of the town is pro bono. We're just going to submit it and see what happens.
Thank you.
Well, first, thank you for all the work you've done.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Rich, do we have anything that we're targeting in terms of potential areas that would benefit from this grant, or is this still up for review?
No, we don't have a specific area necessarily at the moment. It's more of a take a larger snapshot of it. Although I know that we do have some areas that we want to focus in on.
Microphone, please.
Grab, Donna, you know better. Come on, grab a microphone.
Sorry, I should know better.
Yes, you should.
There are areas that are more susceptible to flooding. I think we're continuing to do work around Norfolk Center relative to the whole stormwater system for the center of town, which we'll do on. One of the things I did put in the application, which Paul hasn't a chance to take a look at, which I do want to focus around, is that, we are a community of scenic roads, with the exception of the 2 state number roads. And one of the things I would like to at least give consideration to is, while scenic roads, they add a lot of charm and they're an important part of the town, with the climate change, the vulnerability with the intensity of storms, there's there's a potential where a lot more trees that we could have that we want to preserve and protect can become liabilities. So I would like to look at how we can maybe think about doing this in a way that you can take care of some of those vulnerabilities when it comes to storm-related that we had, and then still take and keep that charm and the scenic look of the town. So it's kind of envision that as a maybe somewhat of a uniquer aspect of this compared to some towns. But as you well know, that we definitely have seen the tree damage and from the storms as of late, and that's something that I know, at least I put in there that for sure.
Yeah, we have several dams that I'm sure are part of the project as well. And then I
Right.
remember 7 or 8 years ago, when we had that excessive rainstorm and that whole Tucker Road area was completely flooded out.
Right.
I think before you were here, Rich, but that road was closed for a long time. All the 4 or 5 homes, they were all flooded out. It cut down onto Main Street. That there's I think it's a vernal pond. I don't think it's fed by anything. I'm pretty sure it's a vernal pond. Just flooded out that whole area. It included Medway Branch. All the homes in Medway Branch had water in their basements as well from that storm. So it happened only the one time I can remember in 30 years, but it was bad.
Yeah, and I don't know if we could accomplish it necessarily.
I don't know how you deal with that, actually.
I mean, the one thing I would like, and I don't know if we'll talk about it as we go forward, but the fact that, as the state looks at, they want to have, as far as stormwater goes, a lot more recharge.
Yeah.
Which we definitely can appreciate that movement. And then also being a town with a lot of septic systems. So we have a lot of water that's already being recharged into the ground. And now you add on top of it,
not
the
much
variety of the storms that we have, could we potentially see increased vulnerabilities related to flooding because, sometimes, the ground's not saturated.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not an issue for us, but at least like to touch on that a little bit as well.
Jim, if I may, what I like about excuse me, what I can appreciate here is that this was just a short glimpse of how effective the workshop can be. He's talking about it on the planning end, and you're immediately bringing up, a dam situation, which obviously, if you had a dam failure, that's a major event. But when you're talking about, you're going to have Board of Health, you're going to have fire, you're going to have police, all in the
good
same
point.
room, we're going to really be able to hone in and prioritize which issues carry the biggest weight and have the largest consequence. So I just wanted to mention that because it's a little glimpse into how the workshop would work.
I know I'm going to regret asking this question, but Rich, what does our comprehensive emergency management plan look like today?
I don't know, and it doesn't mean there isn't one, I just don't know.
There is one.
So I can't answer that.
We have an emergency management director. I would assume we have a plan, but one of the things about emergency management plans is you don't necessarily put them out on the website and share them because you don't necessarily want, if anything bad is going to happen from, say, a person rather than a storm, you wouldn't want that communicated.
Where everybody will be and everything. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we can dig into that at another time.
Okay.
I'd like to just
Here's
make
a plan.
one point, which is I would advocate going forward with this now because, as we've seen with a number of state grant programs, it's great when they have them, but when everyone starts to finally sign up and get going, sometimes there's less money available in the future. So if we can get going on our plan and be ready to submit for Phase 2,
Right.
we might have a better chance of more dollars rather than less if we need them.
So you need from us a vote to approve this evening.
Yeah, I drafted one in the background if you
Okay.
find it helpful.
I have a motion to do so.
I don't want to waste Blythe's drafted motion. This is one of the reasons why paper is better than electronics, right?
Absolutely. It takes you too long to stuff
Yeah.
it through. But we won't go there.
All right, so I move that the board authorize the town administrator submit an application to the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for a Municipal Vulnerability Program Project Grant. I got that in one try.
And in one breath.
Ah,
Yeah, impressive. I will second. And I did that in one breath.
well done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Rich, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
The letter is already written and in Richard's hands. Item number 7 is a request from 3 Squares New England for their 8th annual bike ride for food through Norfolk on October 6th. Since it's their 8th annual, I'm going to take it on faith that this is not the first time you've approved this. We have run it by the chief. He has no issues. He will provide the appropriate details as they've requested in a couple locations. And it's a wonderful fundraising effort for a good cause.
Agreed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item number 9,
Item number
I'll
9.
let you guys handle that one.
Item number 9 is somewhat symbolic, but there will be a new board in place this coming Tuesday evening, sometime around 8:30 to 8:45. They are posted to reorganize, and with Mr. Palumbo's unfortunate resignation, we do not have a vice chair. So rather than leaving any chance to anyone challenging the process, I thought it best to, I would like to make the motion to, because Kevin is now our clerk, I would like to make the motion to appoint Kevin as our vice chair. You can second that.
Second.
I won't ask for any discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll take that issue off the table for you on
Beautiful.
Tuesday evening.
Thank you.
Any other items of discussion?
We have discussion. We have warrants to approve and minutes.
Well, I'm the signee of these, so I will ask for approval on the following warrants. Move to approve April 12th in the amount of $769,686.74. April 16th in the amount of $188,414.09, and April 16th again in the amount of $91,724.89, and I do swear I so swore. I did sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Minutes are yours, sir.
in a much easier effort, I move to approve the minutes from the meeting on March 5th, 2019.
I will second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business? Kevin?
Not on my end.
None?
I have one question I'd like to ask.
Surely.
There was a previous discussion of changing the address of the library from 139 Main Street to Liberty Lane, and during the brief intermission, I spoke to Chief Stone, who said that there wouldn't be a 911 problem, but that it was his understanding that that had to go through the planning board before anything could happen. Do you know if anybody's presented that to the planning board, or if anything's happening about it?
I will defer that to you, sir.
Nothing has been presented to the planning board on that as of yet,
Okay,
but I
so-
was thoroughly ejected from said board yesterday. So if something has occurred since then,
How quickly they kick you off.
but no, nothing has been brought up as of yet.
So whether or not I'm elected as the selectman, I'd like to try to help move that forward to get the library's address to become 2 Liberty Lane.
It resides in the hands of parties really other than the Board of Selectmen. It resides in the planning board and, more importantly, the chief, to be sure that any public safety responses go to the appropriate location.
I understand that, and as I've said, Chief Stone said there wouldn't be a problem with the 911.
So we'll leave it with the planning board.
Thank you.
Donna?
Regarding the emergency plan, Ed Nolan has been the manager. Through the Board of Health, Norfolk has joined the MRC, Medical Reserve Corps. They've recruited volunteers, which was about 10 years ago. There were suggestions, training that could happen, and things didn't happen yet. So it's been restarted, mostly headed by Fran Sullivan, working with Betsy and Eileen Siegel. And they're trying to see the old plan, get it updated, have a tabletop exercise with those people involved. And they're just reaching out to the people and they're going, I didn't know I was involved in the plan. So probably under Fran and Betsy and Eileen, there'll be action on it.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Blythe mentioned it, but we do have a very detailed action management plan, which I suspect that Blythe has now been made aware of, because the town administrator is an integral part of that action plan that involves the superintendents of schools, police, and various other department heads. It is very detailed, very spelled out, but as Blythe says, it's not one that we publish on the webpage because there are a lot of steps involved depending on what the crisis may be. We have, there are some strange things that happen in communities in this day and age, so the community should take comfort in knowing that there is a very detailed plan in place and that the appropriate steps will be taken depending on the event, but it's not something that we're going to broadcast for very obvious reasons. Yeah. So, any other business?
As I said at candidates night, I've come to appreciate how much work the selectmen do. I am well aware, a big job with a lot of time commitment, and I'm assuming that this is the last selectmen's meeting that Mr. Lehan will attend, not attend, will participate in as a selectman. I'd like to thank him very much for all his service to the town over the last years, and I'd also like to thank current and past selectmen for everything they've done. I now understand how much work I'd be getting into if I'm elected.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind comments, David. This is my last meeting, at least for now. You never know. But I have been very grateful to serve. I'm not going to go through any long speeches. I had the chance to say goodbye at another meeting, and so I won't prolong that. But I will say it's been a pleasure to work with my counterparts. Kevin, I've enjoyed working with you for the last year,
You as
and
well.
I've worked with 9 other selectmen over the year. I've found them to be men of integrity, men who cared and considered the town to be their home. People have not always agreed with our decisions or our process, but I can tell you that I don't know a single person that served on this board that did not have the best intent of the town in whatever decision was made, and tried to be right. It's the best you can do, and it's always open to criticism, and it's always open to challenge, and that comes with the job. But the gentlemen that I've had the pleasure of working with, and I sincerely include my counterpart of my last year, have always tried to, I think, do the right thing. And so with that, I say thank you very much to the citizens of Norfolk. Blythe, I wish you continued success. Kevin, I wish you the best of fortune.
Thank you.
And I know that the Board of Selectmen will be in good hands as you take over as the only returning member of the board. So to the citizens, thank you for the opportunity to serve you, and with that, I will say good night.
Thank you both, all.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good night. Please come to town meeting, by the way, which will be a week from this coming Tuesday, the 14th. We need you there. We need your presence. We need your voice.
And please vote also.
Don't vote on the 14th, vote on the 7th.